Hi, my name is Chris Amrine and I'm the developer of the Street Level Ethics material. And Jason was nice enough to ask me if I give you a little bit of an introduction to where it came from and what we're doing with it. Ethics is one of my favorite subjects because in the insurance business, ethics is about building trust. And you know, if we don't have trust, we ain't got nothing. I mean, think about it. We ask them for a whole lot of money and we give them back a piece of paper. Oh, I take it back. We don't even give them that anymore. We send them a link to an email. We send them a PDF. You know, it's a promise. And the bottom line is they got to trust us or that promise is pretty much worthless. And or at claim time, what do we get? Grief, because they feel betrayed. I've been paying for this for 39 years and the first time I need it, bam! And boy, I've heard that song before. And so ethics is one of the things I really believe can make a difference there. But the thing about it is most people think ethics is so easy, which is why I think most people are so terrible at it. You know, how many times have you heard something like, oh, I'll cross that bridge when I come to it, or I'll know what to do when the time comes, and then they get like a deer in the headlights because they never expected an ethical decision to be difficult. They never expected to not be sure which choice to make, and so they fail. And so many people that get busted for ethical violations basically are sitting there going, what? You know, because they really had no clue. They hadn't any preparation. If you've played sports, you know that part of this is simply lack of practice. I mean, you can't walk onto a field the first time and pick up a game. Some people are naturally gifted. But if you're surrounded by people that know what they're doing, you're going to get your head handed to you. So you practice and you get ready. And then when the big game comes, you know what to do because you've done it before. Even if things are a little different than you expected, at least you're better off than if you just walked in totally blind. And that's why I think you need to practice ethics and practice case studies like you're going to see in this class. But you might be wondering about the hat. Well, ethics is real world. That's why I call it street level ethics. And my theme is right versus right. You know, when I first was approached about writing ethics material for the CPCU Society, you know, the whole right versus wrong thing so many state regulators and other people are into. You know, let's teach people not to cheat. Let's teach people not to lie. You know, if you've reached this far in your life and nobody's ever told you not to cheat or lie, there's not a whole lot we're going to be able to do for you in an ethics class and an insurance seminar or any other seminar. So my focus, instead of that, which I think is fairly useless if you've gotten to be an adult and haven't figured that part out, is how do good people get caught in the headlights? How do good people make bad decisions? And I think it's because they don't quite understand the idea that a real ethics conundrum is not necessarily right versus wrong. Those are like fundamental. Those are like, well, duh decisions. The really hard ones for good people are what I call right versus right. When you have multiple options and they all sound like a good option, but you don't know what to do, but you have to choose. And the reason for the hat is to, as a memorial, my father, who passed away several years ago, in World War II was a Seabee, which is what the hat is. Seabees, they were attached to the Navy. He was attached to the 1st Marine Division during the war. And I remember he was telling me the first time he had to get in a landing craft and head for a beach. Now they'd had training, they'd been prepared, and now they're supposed to get this landing craft. And without getting into too much detail, let's just say that now that he's looking down at this landing craft, this kid from Illinois, he's watching it bounce in these 10 and 20 foot swells in the Pacific Ocean. He realizes he's got enough weight on him that if that thing flips over, he's going straight to the bottom because he can't swim with all this equipment. He's looking towards the beach, and despite a 3-day bombardment, clearly the enemy is still awake because he's watching them shooting people, and he's watching landing craft never make it to the beach, and he's watching explosions. And he's probably at this point rethinking his entire choice as to whether this was a smooth move. But the ethical decision he needs to make at this point is, does he get in the landing craft? Now let's just very quickly, what I mean by right versus right. Is it right for him to do his duty? Of course. Is it right for him to be there for his band of brothers? Of course. Is it right for him to follow orders? Of course. But the #1 human instinct is survival. Is it right for him to want to live? Of course. Is it right for him to not want to suffer a terrible injury that could ruin his life? Of course. Is it right for him as a father to want to go home to his children? Of course. Is it right for him as a husband to want to go home to his wife? Of course. But at this moment, standing at that rail, he has to decide. Because whichever choice he makes of all of those right choices could eliminate the others. If he gets in that landing craft, he might not go home. If he gets in that landing craft, he might never see his children again. Those are classic, devastating ethical decisions. And I'll make 2 quick points and then I'm going to turn you back to the class, because I think that's the point of the class, is to explore this whole right versus right. If you don't see it coming, you'll never realize how hard these decisions are. People that just go along thinking, I'll be fine, I'll know what to do, I'm a good person, will never know what hit them. And secondly, the practice part. I firmly believe, and in my dad's opinion, he shared it with me, but I believe, whether he'd have said it or not, that if it hadn't been for all of the training and all of the things he'd been through before, standing at that rail, I don't think any human being can make that decision. I mean, that's devastating. Whatever you do is about to destroy you. But he knew he was going to get in that boat before he ever got on the ship in San Diego. He knew that time was going to come when he was going to have to find out if he was going to be able to step up or not. Now, a bad decision would have been to be a coward. But he already knew he didn't want to do that. So he had to choose to do his duty. But it was terrible for him. Now, one final point. We're very good in this country, and a lot of business schools like to teach, and a lot of people like to teach, that we're results oriented. If you make the right decision, everything will be fine. If everything isn't fine, you made the wrong decision. That's not true in ethics. And again, I think you'll see that as you go through material, but let me say why I bring that up now. My dad came back. He lived. He was traumatized in many ways by what he saw in the war, but he lived. But some of his friends didn't. Did his friends make a bad decision and he made a good one? You cannot say that. They all made a right decision for them. The way it turned out was out of their control. And when you're having to make a really tough ethical decision, working with clients or prospects or insurance companies or handling claims, you're not going to know whether they're going to celebrate you, slap you on the back, slap you upside the head, or hate your guts. But you've got to choose at that moment which of the possible right paths you will choose. I really love this material. I love insurance. I think the better at anything you are, the more fun it is. So after my 40+ years in the business, I'm still having a good time. I'm having fun. I hope you will too, and I hope Street Level Ethics will help you make the right decisions for you and your clients and your stakeholders, and then when the time comes, you'll know to get in the boat. I'm Chris Amrine, and thanks again for being in class today.